Manipulating Digital Images, original photos by Catherine P. Fulford. That's me. First of all, I'm going to talk about quick fixes that you can do with many inexpensive or free photo programs. Some of these are available as web-based programs, or some you can download as an application. First of all, when you get a picture like this, you need to rotate it. Most of these programs can do that. They usually have an auto enhance feature where you just click a button and it figures out what you might need to do. This doesn't always work, but it's a good first start. Next is to look at your picture and see if things are straight. It will often give you a grid to do this, and then you can just straighten it up. Next is to consider cropping out what you don't need. There you go, it looks much better now. You can also retouch certain areas to make them look better. This can be on people's faces, where you can take a few wrinkles or spots on their face off, or you can even take out something such as this building fairly easily. There you go, a little bit better. A lot of times you can change the exposure or shadows and highlights fairly easily. Yes, that's much better. One thing though is I remember this as being much brighter. So I'd like to increase the saturation on it. Ooh, that's much better, but it's got a little bit too much yellow in it. Let me see what happens if I increase the temperature or color a little bit in the blue direction. Yes, that's nice. That's what I think I remember seeing. Boy, what a difference. And it didn't take very long either. It's relatively simple. You can see here what we did. We increased the exposure some. We increased the saturation a lot. We reduced shadows a tremendous amount. And we tweaked the temperature towards the blue side a little bit. You can see overall we have about a 94% change. You can use these level buttons and do several operations at the same time, or you can use each of these sliders individually. And if you're not happy, you can always revert to the original and start over, or you can undo one thing at a time. If you want to tackle more complex achievements, let's see what you might try. It's best to find a project to do and have a purpose. My parents' 50th anniversary was coming up and I wanted to do something special, so my sister and I cooked this idea up. My mother had recently found her wedding photos that they thought had been burned in a fire. I was very excited to see them because I had never seen them before. My father was not very proud of them because as a photographer he didn't think they were very high quality. So I set out to see what I could do. First I wanted to colorize. I remember my mother used to do this in our photography studio. She would take paints and tint the pictures. I had a lot of fun doing this as a child and wanted to see if I could still do it with Photoshop. But to do this I had to do some research. I asked my mother if she still had her wedding dress, and sure enough, hidden away in the attic was her dress. And I got an idea of what the colors were like. It was beautiful. So I was able to think about the colors that she had with her descriptions. So that helped in my project. Next, I noticed that this hand looked really bad. I had tried to lighten it unsuccessfully and was not very happy at all with it. So I decided that I would replace it by taking the other hand, flipping it over, and putting it underneath the wedding cake. I thought I was fairly successful. Another thing that my mother talked about is how sad she was that nobody decorated the table very much. So I took it upon myself to decorate things. I took the candles that were at the end of the table from another shot, and I took flowers from her hair and added them to the bottom of the cake. Wow, that looked pretty good. I was ready to go print. But when I printed, there were some things I noticed that hadn't been done. First of all, I knew my father wouldn't like all those background distractions, especially those hinges on the doors. So I took them off. Next, I noticed it was still quite brown. So I also changed it to pure black and white and took away the sepia of the old photograph. Now I had a successful picture. Let's take a look at the layers that I had to do. Wow, there were 24 different layers in this complex project. I felt quite successful and I had learned all of the major tools in Photoshop. I was very proud of myself. And you can do this too. It really isn't that hard. I found the tutorials for Photoshop excellent. There are also other free programs that have similar aspects that you can try. You might want to do that before investing in a professional program like Photoshop. Wow, what a difference! I took this photo that I had done and I had it printed on canvas and framed. It was over the fireplace when my parents came into this beautiful Victorian house where we held the reception. Boy, were they surprised. It's the first thing that they saw. They were very excited and knew that I had done something special. Let's look at a few more examples before we go. You can really think about how you crop to achieve greatness. Here's a nice picture of my little cousin, but it could be a lot nicer. And all we have to do is tighten it up and balance it better, making the focal point the little boy and his dog. Here's another one of my cousin, a different cousin of course, but we've got that ugly tripod in the background, very much in the way. Let's take it out. Oh, what a nice shot. Ooh, but look at this. What if we just make it into a portrait? Isn't that pretty? Here's another one of 3 lions in Africa. Wow, kind of missed that shot, didn't I? What can I do to save it? Good cropping really helps. Now the focus is on the gentleman in the middle. Looks much nicer. Another thing you can do is use Photoshop or another program to clean up your act. Here we go. This was a beautiful shot of friends of mine that I worked with UNESCO. Unfortunately, some taggers had been there and made a mess of the building. I wanted to remember it differently, so I set out to clean it up, but I also really wanted myself in the picture. So here's what I did. Cleaned up the building, that looks good, and I also found another picture of myself to put in there. The problem is that it was when I was out sightseeing and I had on tennis shoes, which were bright white against these professional-looking outfits. So I borrowed some shoes from a fellow and put them on my feet. I also trimmed down that belly pack that was under there. Didn't achieve that very well, but still it looks a lot better. Another idea is to have some fun. I taught my little cousin how to do, and she's only 10. Look at the success that she made. First she cut herself out, then she got another photo of the cousins and popped herself right in. What a nice job she did, and only 10. So see, you can do this too. And here's another one I took. This took hours on the plane to fix. My poor aunt with a pole in her face. Everybody else looks so nice, I thought this would be a beautiful picture. Look how pretty my mother is. So I went over and found a picture of my aunt, and I put her in the photo. So I had to do a lot of work erasing that big pole out of her head, but it was well worth it. Nice shot. Next, you can also be creative. Doing a photo collage is a nice way to start your photo album. I did this one after a trip with my mother and my aunt to Spain, Switzerland, and Paris.